Welcome to another installment of Leon Todd's Preamp Odyssey. Today we're looking at the Marshall 9004 solid state preamp. It's quite compact and light compared to some of the other preamps I've checked out recently on this channel, mostly because it doesn't have a whole bunch of tubes and transformers in it. It is really quite interesting in that it's a Marshall amp with 2 channels, and it doesn't have a built-in power supply. You've got to use this wall wart thing. That's probably the thing that I find the most interesting about it. You've got a stereo effects loop on the back, you've got a foot switch and a headphone jack on the front, as well as independent EQ controls for each channel, so that's kind of cool. There is a master effects mix and a master level on the front. I had a catalog for the whole 9000 series as a kid that somebody gave me, and I just thought they always looked kind of cool and mysterious. From my understanding, though, they weren't a massive success, especially this particular preamp, and it kind of led Marshall to do the JMP1. I have a JMP1 that I love. I used to gig that years ago, and you've heard that one in depth on the channel before. So let's have a listen to just the 9000 today. If you're interested, I will do a comparison side by side with the JMP1. Let me know if you want to hear that in the comments. Until then, let's plug this into the effects return of my Marshall DSL and pull some tones. Oh yeah, and a massive thank you to Chris for sending me this all the way from Sydney. This traveled cross country. So Chris, you've absolutely made my day. I've wanted to try one of these for so long, and thanks so much for supporting the channel and shooting me over your personal unit. I will do my best not to butcher it too much. Let's get started on the rhythm channel. I'm playing my 1977 Fender Strat. There's a 3-band EQ, which I've got set at noon at the moment, as well as a volume control. Let's start on the neck pickup. That's what it's doing on the neck pickup there. You can hear the bass control is really sensitive. Around 11 o'clock is basically where it kicks in, and you don't get a whole lot less or more either side of that. It's just like nearly nothing and then all the bass. So if I turn all the way up, have a listen. Then if I turn it to about 11 o'clock, it's kind of the same. But then if I turn it just a little bit below that, it's like it's all gone. So that's kind of interesting. And then I just find the treble and the mids, you know, if you crank the mids and the treble, this is what you get. Again, not super different. It's almost like they have this really extreme range where it's basically like not much, everything. And that kind of holds true across the board with the EQ controls. The volume control, I just kind of find that, you know, running it nearly all the way up works with this particular setup, and you don't get a lot of breakup out of it, if any at all. And I mean, one thing is with a typical Marshall valve amp or preamp, you normally always get to some kind of sweet spot where you get that mythical edge of breakup thing, and sometimes you just can't get a straight up really big punchy clean like this can. So that's definitely one thing that I guess a typical Marshall wouldn't do that this does. Let's go over to the lead channel. At the moment, we'll start on the Strat. I'll do the same thing and set all the EQ straight up the guts, and then we'll play around with the range of the gain control. That's pretty cool with the Strat. I like some of these, you know, just a bit more than mid-gain tones. I guess a mid-gain tone would be more about here. But I do like a little bit more gain. I'm gonna swap over to a humbucker equipped guitar now. I'm gonna go over to my Hamer Standard, which has a set of Seymour Duncan pickups in it. So again, the EQ controls, you know, they're pretty fiddly in terms of there's a sweet spot and that's about it. And then again, that's the maximum amount of gain you get out of this. So if you wanted like a truly crushing sort of thrash metal or industrial distortion out of this, I don't think you're really going to get it. It's more designed to do those late 80s, early 90s mid-gain tones. And I mean, for what it is, it does not sound that bad. Let's have a listen to this in the context of a mix with some bass and drums. I'm going to play a little section from the Ragdoll song Overnight Sensation, which I think kind of suits the core tone this thing pumps out. I've also used this on bass. So I've gone bass straight into it and then run it DI into Pro Tools for the bass track. And I think it kind of sounds cool on bass, and it doesn't sound that terrible for the rhythm guitars or the lead guitars. I've used a Greenback IR like I've been using on all of this for the rhythm tones, but then I changed it up and used the V30 IR for the lead sound. I did that in post, just like I've been applying the IRs in post here. So let's have a listen to that. So it certainly works. I expected this thing would maybe do a really crushing thrash or industrial kind of tone like I talked about earlier, because it's solid state, or that you'd be able to get some kind of like death metal sound out of it like the Valve states, but it doesn't really do that. It's more for that crunchy rock and roll, like I said, late 80s, early 90s thing everybody associated with Marshall at the time. I have tried the 9000 series power amp. My buddy and friend of the channel, Troy Nababan, has one of those, and that's an amazing sounding power amp. I'd be really curious to hear that paired up with this preamp to see if I get better results than using this into the DSL effects return. But In its defense, all my other preamps sound really, really good into the effects return of the DSL, and you've heard that on the channel before. So yeah, there you go. That's the Marshall 9004 preamp. Again, a massive shout out to Chris for sending me his unit to test out. It's been a whole lot of fun. It's answered some questions that I've had about this preamp, and like so much of the stuff we see and hear on this channel, if you use it right, you can definitely get some usable tones out of it. Let me know what you thought in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching the video. Stay safe, be excellent to one another, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.